Join me as we step into one of the most emotional and uncertain chapters of RayJ's life, a chapter that has left fans shaken, reflective, and searching for hope. For decades, RayJ has lived in the spotlight. Known around the world as an R&B singer, reality television star, entrepreneur, and public figure, he built a career on visibility. His life played out on stages, screens, and social media feeds. But behind the success, the headlines, and the cameras, another story has been unfolding quietly, one that has nothing to do with fame. It is a story about the heart. And now, that story has reached a moment that no one was prepared for. RayJ's latest health update has sent shockwaves through his fanbase. What began as concern has grown into fear. What once felt manageable now feels fragile. And what was once a private struggle has become a public reckoning. This is not just a celebrity health scare. This is a man confronting his own mortality in real time. RayJ has been open about his health challenges before. Over the years, he spoke honestly about hospital visits, physical exhaustion, and moments when his body simply wouldn't keep up with his ambition. Fans watched as he tried to balance work, family, and recovery, often pushing himself harder than doctors recommended. But this time feels different. The tone of his voice has changed. The pauses last longer. The optimism feels cautious. And then, something happened that made people truly afraid. RayJ went silent. No updates. No reassurance. No familiar presence online. For days, then weeks, there was nothing. That silence became deafening. Behind closed hospital doors, RayJ had been admitted once again. Doctors resumed close monitoring of his heart, running tests, adjusting treatments, and watching carefully for signs of improvement. Each moment mattered. Each decision carried weight. Meanwhile, fans were left in the dark. Social media filled the gap with speculation, fear, and prayer. Comment sections turned into support groups. People refreshed their feeds obsessively, hoping for even the smallest sign that RayJ was okay. And with every passing day, the anxiety grew. Some wondered if stress had finally taken its toll. Years of non-stop work, endless travel, the pressure of public life. Others questioned whether past habits had pushed his heart beyond its limits. Sympathy spread quickly, but so did fear. People shared personal stories of loved ones lost to heart disease. Others talked about their own diagnoses, their own hospital stays, their own moments of realization that life can change without warning. RayJ's struggle stopped feeling distant. It became personal. Being hospitalized again forced RayJ to confront a truth he could no longer avoid. Time was not guaranteed. Doctors continued monitoring his condition around the clock. His heart rate, his response to medication, his physical strength, every detail mattered. Progress was slow, and uncertainty hung in the air like a weight no one could lift. The silence between updates only made things worse. Fans filled the void with prayers. Messages poured in from all over the world. Some people begged for answers. Others simply hoped he could feel their support, even from a hospital bed. When RayJ finally spoke again, the emotional shift was unmistakable. There was no bravado, no performance, no attempt to downplay the seriousness. Instead, there was honesty. RayJ admitted that the fear was real. That the situation had forced him to think differently about his life, his choices, and his future. He spoke openly about the emotional toll not just on himself, but on the people who loved him. And then he said something that stopped fans cold. If he survived this, he wanted to live differently, not just healthier, differently. He talked about slowing down, about learning how to be calm in a world that constantly demanded more from him, about being present, truly present for moments that matter. For the first time, the fight was no longer just about recovery. It was about meaning. This is where RayJ's story shifted. What started as fear began turning into reflection. He was no longer just fighting to stay alive. He was fighting for a second chance. But reflection does not erase uncertainty. The hardest question still loomed unanswered. Would his heart respond to treatment? Or was time already working against him? As days turned into weeks, RayJ remained under medical care. Doctors continued administering medications, monitoring his heart's response, and adjusting plans as needed. Each update felt fragile. Each moment carried the possibility of change, good or bad. Nothing could fully remove the fear. Not the treatments. Not the doctor's reassurances. Not the hope. Every heartbeat became a reminder of how delicate life truly is. Every decision felt heavier than ever before. RayJ followed strict routines. Carefully monitored meals. Limited movement. Long hours of rest. Even so, there were moments of pain. Moments of weakness. Moments when doubt crept in. Doctors warned him about possible next steps if his condition failed to stabilize. Advanced medical interventions were discussed not as guarantees, but as possibilities. Those conversations weighed on him constantly, but something remarkable happened during this time. RayJ refused to give up hope. Even while facing the unknown, he continued searching for answers. He listened. He reflected. He questioned the pace of his life and the cost of always pushing forward. Then came one of the most emotional admissions he had ever shared. He said the hardest part wasn't the physical pain, it was being away from his children, the missed moments, the distance, the feeling that time was slipping away. He admitted that loneliness and isolation had affected him as deeply as the illness itself. That vulnerability changed everything. Fans responded instantly, messages of love flooded in, prayers poured out, stories were shared. People were no longer watching a celebrity health update. They were witnessing a human being confront mortality. And through that honesty, something powerful happened. Connection. RayJ began speaking about hope beyond medicine. He talked about survival not just as staying alive, but as learning how to live fully once given the chance. He said that if he made it through this, he wanted to emerge stronger, wiser, more present. He realized survival wasn't only about heartbeats. It was about love, about purpose, about showing up for life. That realization added a new layer to his journey. This was no longer just a health crisis. It became a story of transformation, of resilience, of second chances. And even as uncertainty remained, one truth became clear. RayJ's journey was inspiring people everywhere to reflect on their own lives, to check their health, to slow down, and to cherish the people they love while they still can. As hospital doors continued to open and close and doctors remained vigilant, fans waited with bated breath, hoping, praying, believing that this fight would end not in loss, but in strength. Because this wasn't just about RayJ anymore. It was about all of us. As the days stretched on, the waiting became its own kind of pain. Inside the hospital, time moved differently. Hours felt longer. Nights felt heavier. RayJ lay surrounded by monitors, machines quietly tracking every beat of his heart, every fluctuation, every moment that might signal progress or warning. Outside those walls, fans experienced a different kind of waiting. Every notification sparked hope. Every rumor sparked fear. Every unanswered question made the silence louder. Doctors continued to observe RayJ closely, explaining that heart conditions are rarely straightforward. Improvement can come slowly, unpredictably, and sometimes not at all. Medications were carefully adjusted, each one chosen to support his heart and reduce strain on his body. Still, uncertainty lingered. Even with treatment, there were no guarantees. RayJ spoke about how strange it felt to surrender control. His entire career had been built on movement, traveling, performing, creating, responding quickly to opportunity. Now he was being asked to rest, to stay still, to let others decide what came next. That loss of control was terrifying. There were moments when fear crept in quietly, late at night, when the hospital grew quiet and the only sound was the steady rhythm of machines. In those moments, RayJ admitted he questioned everything. Had he pushed too hard for too long? Had he ignored warning signs? Had he taken his health for granted? Those questions had no easy answers. Doctors explained that heart conditions don't always come from one cause. Stress, genetics, lifestyle, and time all intertwine in ways that are impossible to untangle. What mattered now wasn't blame, it was survival. Still, the emotional weight was heavy. RayJ shared that there were days when even small movements felt exhausting. Simple tasks left him drained. And for someone used to constant motion, that reality was difficult to accept. But what weighed on him most wasn't physical weakness. It was the distance. Being separated from his children hit him harder than he expected. He spoke about missing their voices, their laughter, the everyday moments that suddenly felt priceless. Each day away from them felt like time he might never get back. That thought haunted him. He talked about how loneliness settles in differently when you're sick. Even surrounded by medical staff, there's a quiet isolation that comes with facing your own vulnerability. It's a reminder that no matter how famous you are, illness strips everything down to what truly matters. That honesty resonated deeply with fans. Across social media, messages continued to pour in. Parents shared stories about their own health scares and how they changed their priorities. Others admitted they scheduled doctor appointments because of RayJ's story. His journey was becoming a wake-up call. As the days went on, doctors began discussing possible future scenarios. They explained that if his heart didn't respond as hoped, additional interventions might be necessary. These were not decisions to be made lightly. Each option carried risks, uncertainties, and long-term implications. RayJ listened carefully. He asked questions. He wanted to understand everything. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting to make informed choices about his future. Despite the seriousness of those conversations, something inside him shifted. Instead of panic, he felt clarity. RayJ began talking about life beyond recovery, about how he wanted to change not just his schedule, but his mindset. He spoke about learning how to say no, about choosing peace over pressure, about redefining success. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't thinking about charts, ratings, or appearances. He was thinking about time. Time with his children, time with family, time to simply exist without rushing. That shift didn't mean fear disappeared. There were still moments when doubt returned. moments when pain flared or energy dropped unexpectedly, moments when the future felt uncertain again, but hope remained. And hope in moments like these is powerful. Fans noticed the change in his tone. Even when updates were brief, there was a sense of intention behind his words. He wasn't pretending everything was fine. He wasn't offering false reassurance. He was sharing truth. That honesty strengthened the connection between RayJ and the people watching his journey unfold. It reminded everyone that behind the fame was someone just as fragile, just as human as anyone else. Doctors continued their careful monitoring, watching for signs that his heart was stabilizing. Progress was measured slowly, not in dramatic leaps, but in subtle improvements that required patience. RayJ learned quickly that healing isn't linear. Some days felt better, others felt worse, and learning to accept that unpredictability was part of the process. He spoke openly about how frustrating it was to feel limited by his own body, to want to move forward but be forced to pause, to feel mentally ready while physically constrained. Yet, even in frustration, there was gratitude. Gratitude for medical care, gratitude for support, gratitude for the chance to reflect. RayJ acknowledged that not everyone gets this opportunity, this moment to reassess life before it's too late. That realization weighed heavily on him. He said surviving isn't just about making it through a crisis, it's about what you do afterward. As fans continued watching, many found themselves reflecting on their own lives. They questioned their routines, their stress levels, their priorities. Some shared that they reconnected with loved ones. Others said they made changes they had been putting off for years. RayJ's struggle was quietly changing lives. Still, the central question remained unanswered. Would his heart continue to improve? Or would the next chapter bring new challenges? Doctors remained cautious. They emphasized that recovery takes time and that patience was essential. There would be no rushed decisions, no shortcuts. For RayJ, that meant learning to live in uncertainty. And that, perhaps, was the hardest lesson of all. As days passed, the hospital environment became familiar, almost routine. But beneath that routine, the stakes never disappeared. Every test result mattered. Every symptom was monitored closely. Fans held on to hope, even as fear lingered in the background. They watched, they waited, they believed, because this story was no longer just about illness. It was about endurance, about vulnerability, about the courage it takes to face the unknown and keep going anyway. And as RayJ rested, reflected, and fought quietly from a hospital bed, the world waited to see what the next update would bring.